Nah,
We put that through the wash.
Yeah, I did. That's been through the wash. I've done it, and it's the bit that's gone is the details. Details.
Rest in peace.
That's
Still got
why.
one more in there.
That's why I take photos of all business cards as soon as I get them. I just take a photo. I'm actually gonna chuck that in the fucking bin. Oh, can you
Just put it.
just sit in your podcast seat and shut the fuck up? Can ya? Can you just fucking sit there?
I like that.
God almighty.
Oh, that's that.
You do
Yeah,
my fucking brain in.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm rolling.
Oh, sweet.
All
All
righty.
yours.
All right. Here I am in beautiful Brisbane. I come across these two inspiring chaps, Dan and Ed.
Inspiring's a new one.
I like it. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. You inspire me, Ed.
Shut up.
You haven't been called inspiring?
I don't think we've had inspiring before.
Ah.
But it's good. I like it.
Yeah, I
Thank
got
you.
it, man. Everything I've been watching is well, a lot of the TED Talk, mate. That gives you a lot of value. Do you take a lot of credit for some of this TED Talk, or is it just?
It's both, mate. It's. I just was the one who just shared. I shared the journey on the story on behalf of both of us.
I was
Yeah.
happy to handball that one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we do together in our business that he does and I do that neither of us see that helps the
Each
other one
other.
out that neither one wants to do.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
So-
yeah. Rock paper scissors.
Yeah,
but
it
a few
works.
things.
It works out. It works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the yin, he's the yang. It's gorgeous.
Oh,
But it is. It was a really good introduction to find out what exactly you guys do, though. You know, it got to the raw part of like mental health. You know, suicide. Your mate Dan. I couldn't work out if it was both your guys' mates or.
No, I never met him, weirdly enough. I never met him, but in a wild set of events, we've sort of, gone on this journey together to sort of make a massive change through, the tragedy that took place with, Dan's mate. So it was, it feels weird. I've reflected on that a bit, that it's like, I never met that guy. And it's like, I'm now doing this, after what transpired through him. So, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, isn't it crazy though how I hope it's okay to talk about it, man. Obviously, yeah.
It's kind of our thing.
Yeah.
To talk about this, Get deep, go deep, let's go.
Yeah. Well, this is what's inspired me to start up, Fucking Real, is just to get real. Like, I lost my mum through suicide at the age of 14. And I've struggled with mental health, like, my whole life. And coming out the back end of it, I'm just like, fuck, man, I've got to start sharing some more light on all these areas. I mean, you guys mentioned it before. You mentioned in your TED Talk, and it was about, like, it's an ocean of confusion when you've got this mental illness, and it's like I just wanted to shine light on areas where people can go to my website and start seeing these podcasts and reaching, inspiring people like yourself, or breath work or plant-based medicine and things like that. So
Whatever it is, yeah.
Well, I'm glad the TED Talk is done. Like, it's out there, and like I'm glad that people like yourself can watch it and get the full picture of who we are and what we do. Because actually, like, I've had so many messages from a lot of people who I know really well who are like, I didn't really fully understand what you guys actually do. Like, I knew you had the work shirts, but like we didn't. And that's pretty common, actually. Like, a lot of people probably don't know how much we actually, have done and do with the whole thing. Like, it's much more than just shirts. So
Yeah.
I'm really, that TED process was that was a hell of a process to get through and get that done. Super grateful, that it went so well. And, the whole thing really for me is very reflective on when I look at it, I really think about where I was at that time. And like I said to you outside before, like, I really wasn't in a good headspace at the time of delivering that. So, and you go through stages of this whole business and doing this thing of being like I'm up here on stage talking about mental health, but I'm like
struggling.
For sure. But I think that's the real side of it, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to come to terms with like the imposter syndrome a little bit. But I'm glad it's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's done. Like it was a hell of an experience. But I'm glad that people can sort of really get the full snapshot of a lot of what we do, because it probably is the most comprehensive telling of it all. And we've learned a lot of lessons through the whole thing. And I think the timing to do that was like probably the right time for us as well. Yeah. Given kind of where we've been, we were probably able to wrap up the story and the journey pretty well at that point in time. Yeah. Quite comprehensively. So yeah. It's
because
good.
you are right. It's when I heard of Trade Mutt, I just thought, it's you like I understood the basics of your story and what you guys were doing, but man, it's just when I opened the door up to you guys, it's sort of like all the, well, I'd say they're not really little things, but like 50% of your profits are going towards you know, this on well, not online, like a
To
Text
TIACS,
and call
yeah.
service. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing for us is sort of managing the impact through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because like we've always said, it would have been pretty easy for us to just tick a box and donate to an existing non-for-profit out there. But one, we sort of wanted to call bullshit a little bit on the non-for-profit space. And two, we wanted to make change in an area where no one else was really doing that. Because there was a lot of awareness already happening, and our shirts were aiding that awareness and bringing more conversations to the forefront. But for people to go and get access to a counsellor or a psychologist, it was a task that was fucking hard, arduous, expensive, so many barriers. And we were like, well, it sounded too simple at the time. Like, well, let's just remove all those barriers. And we just hired some counsellors and have them provide their service to the community, you know, for free. And it's like
so how is that
16,000
working?
people.
Just for those.
How's it working?
Yeah.
Like, it's working amazingly well.
Yeah.
And the big thing for us is like we've had 16,000 people through since the 8th of June 2020.
Yep.
So $2.5 million worth of free counselling provided to the Australian blue collar community, which is pretty cool. And the big thing for us now is ensuring that our quality of care is maintained and if not improved upon, and that we are getting the service out to more people who need it. Because a big thing, and like you go through changes and evolutions and you're continually like moving forward in business, and the position that we're at now, especially with the charity, is righto, we've got a service that works. We've had 16,000 people through that have got an amazing amount of benefit out of it. Now, how do we get those people to tell their mates about the service and how good it is and get more people through, but also get people to understand when they should be reaching out or why they should be reaching out, and allowing them to actually start doing that. Because it's like the easy thing is like once someone's gone and got help, like Dan and I, we see our own psychs or whatever. My wife and I see a psych. Like, it's easy now. Like, you just go and do it. You book the appointment, you go, you tell mates about how good it is, and they go, oh, fuck, that's interesting. And then, you know, it might be 6-12 months down the track, and then they will go. But it's like, how do we speed that transition up from, I think I might need this, to actually I'm going to go and do it? You know, that's the bit where we're at now. It's like the marketing piece of getting more people through.
And it's like, and I guess this is great in what you guys are doing, because it's the conversations that got to happen, you know. Like, I mean, even though I might have gone and got my own help, I need to talk about that to make it a common thing, or even so someone can ask me questions. How was it? Was that shit? Was that good?
Totally.
You know?
And that was the crux of really the TED Talk, right? It's like, we've done all these things, but now the next bit that we need help with is everyone else driving that social shift, that social change of actually talking about, you know, it's like when like Ed just said, like when he talks about it in front of his mates, they're like, oh, that's interesting. And then they reach out to him, they're like, oh, who was that psych that you mentioned that you guys use? You know what I mean? Because that's where the magic happens. Like, that's actually where the magic happens.
Because the trust is built.
Yeah, and you can put all this, like, there's plenty of services, you know, of all different levels out there for all different sort of kinds of people, right? And what we're doing, the blue collar space, that's one option, you know what I mean? That's one of them. We're just trying to make it real simplified, you know, journey through, start conversations on a daily basis, talk to a counsellor, you know, prevent yourself from getting to that point of crisis, like, you know, engage early. But yeah, the key is talking about it, telling people that that's what you're doing, because it's like, it's just one of those taboo kind of things, or has been. It shouldn't be. Like, we're trying to change that.
Well, I think we are. Yeah, we are slowly changing it. And I mean, we're running into people now that have used the service and benefited from it and thanking us for it, which is like, fuck, righto, there's people, real people out here now, you know what I mean? Because the other weird thing is, we look at like impact data and stuff a lot, but it's just numbers on a page. Whereas like last week, we're at Bunnings Trade Expo here in Brisbane, fucking third-year carpentry apprentice comes up to us and is like, use your service, had 7 sessions with Kurt, it's fucking awesome. We're like,
I wouldn't have been able to afford that otherwise. If it wasn't free, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And so we're like,
well,
okay, it's working.
Yeah, and I guess like behind the scenes as well. Like, I mean, it's still inspiring people to go and find their own psychologist. Or
you need to. Like, it's not that TIACS is not a one-stop shop solution, right? And that's the key with all of this stuff. Like, you don't just, you know, you don't get a
have a call and it's done.
You don't get a personal trainer and also but then have shit nutrition or something. Like, if you're going to do it properly, you kind of got to, you know, do all the different elements together.
It's a journey, and you know, like from the outside looking at it, you boys, you know, you can easily say, oh man, you guys have. You know, you guys have sort of made it in a way of like, you got your passion, you got your journey, you're doing really well, your social's good. But yeah, like you guys said, man, like you're hitting, like you're still getting your hurdles, and you need to know your tool bag at that stage, don't you? Where you can sort of
and it happens, happens every day, right? Because like even yesterday, like we had a plumber come around, like we got a block toilet at the new office downstairs.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
You were the last to use that toilet.
One is the landlord listening to this one. Sort it out, you bastard. But he said to me, he was a blood nut. I don't know what that's got to do with anything, but he introduced himself as Red. He's like, yeah, you can call me Red.
That's right.
But he goes, oh, you guys are killing it, Like, see you guys ever, that's great. And my answer is always the same. I just say to people, so the marketing is definitely working.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that goes on behind that people don't see, you know what I mean? Like, and everyone knows this. Like, anyone who's done a project or run a business or whatever, like, yeah, it ain't all rainbows and Skittles, mate, like, at all, And it's every day is like coming up against challenges, and we try to make it very clear to people, like, we're not mental health professionals. We don't even have our own shit together all the time. Like, we're figuring it out on the fly. Like, we're constantly.
Isn't that the key though? The key is to just surrender.
Yeah.
Because we're like, fuck, it's life, man. We're always going to have some challenges.
For sure.
It's just
and we
the next
can't
thing.
control everything, you know.
Always have challenges. Like, you just keep going through, and also different phases of life. That's something that's becoming more and more apparent as well. We've been talking about how loneliness and isolation is one of the biggest killers for people over blokes.
75 or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's a phase of life. You might go through that whole life of having a great family, great dynamic, great job, but then you get to this new phase of life, when you're older, and it's a whole new set of challenges. So, and that's constant, right, throughout your life.
And you don't think forward like that, because I remember when my grandfather was still around, like a few years ago, he was coming up for my wedding. That's right, like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, he and my grandma were driving up, was going to be great, and he's like ringing up all these people between Canberra and Toowoomba to be like, I'll stop in and say g'day. Everyone who's ringing up, they're all fucking dead. You know what I mean? So I wanted to catch up with everyone, but they've all... He's like, right. They died fucking 5 years ago. I was like, trying to catch up with all these old friends. And he's like, oh, Jesus, such a morbid part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's obviously... that's another part of it.
Yeah, and I sort of feel like people, like mental health, it's like you try and avoid it, but the way I'm trying to look at it, or the way I teach my son, who you just met before, is to be that, you got to be challenged. You got to face this anxiety. Anxiety.
Embrace it.
I'm sure you had anxiety before you went out onto the stage at TED Talk.
Crippling, mate. For 2 weeks. For 2 weeks before 2 weeks before doing it, like, I'd be at home pacing back and forth in the living room reciting it, and like in like the 2 weeks out, like, I'd get to certain points in it and just start bawling my fucking eyes out.
Yeah.
Like, on my own, no one else around. I'd just say. And I'd just be crying, be like, mate, I feel the pressure. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? How I can do this? You can get out and do it. So yeah, man, it's like.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
No, but you got to
other than
front up and get it done and try to rehearse as much as you can, I guess. But yeah, mate, it's 100%. It's like, change is the only constant in life, and with that comes a whole lot of challenges, and that is, I guess the quicker you can get comfortable with that. But embracing change, I think, is one thing that we've probably got really good at as well, and like embracing new challenges, and because that's what our job is, like, on a daily basis with these two orgs that we've got. Every day is just solving new problems to varying degrees. Like, some we've had problems that we face on a daily, like, that feel like catastrophic. Like, it's like, this is the end. This is the end of like, we're not going to be able to get through this. But you do, like. You do.
You've got to keep finding a way.
That sort of brings me to one of my questions is, like, I mean, what do you guys do? I mean, I think you said on your trade talk that you've got your own psychologist that you go and see. I think you both got your own one that you go and see. What else, man? Like, what is the key to sort of staying on top of your mental health?
Well, I changed. Like, I had a psych last year. I was seeing a female, and I saw her for probably 6 sessions, and like, sort of started out, really good, and then, like, as we sort of got deep into the journey, I started to feel like, I'm not really enjoying how these sessions are going, you know what I mean? So I found a new psych, which I started with after her. So, like, I had to change, and that's important, I think, as well, like, for people to know. It's like, you don't just find the qualified person and be like, they're the one. You got to find the right one for you, and that's, like, even something that I've been figuring out. I've sort of figured out myself, so, that's part of it.
And that can take up to 5 different...
Mate, it's it's a process. I think people have got to be invested in wanting to find the solution. I think if you're not genuinely invested in wanting to kind of better yourself or solve the issues, it probably is easier then to go like, oh, I had a bad experience, I'm not going to try that again.
Not going again.
Yeah.
You know, it probably means you're not really genuinely invested or ready to make change, you know?
Yeah.
I think at the point in time you are, it's important to explore, you know, who's out there, you know, and what you need, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I approached my first psychologist. Well, as a life coach more. I went there as a life coach. Like, I don't have a problem. I need to have it as I want to better myself in business. I was in denial, you know. And after a couple of sessions, she's like, no, there's a lot of trauma from your childhood, growing up, you know, the way you have and with your mum and everything, you know. And it took me 4 years to actually dive in deep to go...
Break right through it.
Yeah, to break right through it. And I think, so but I sort of found her and didn't really have to explore anywhere. I did have that connection with her and, you know, and she helped me in a lot of different areas and I knew I could trust in her. But it wasn't that I was ready to let go and I was sort of making up all these excuses to really just dive in deep, or we'll to let go, like what we were talking about before.
Yeah, we do that. We do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, and then obviously, like everything else around your life, like is so important. The little things, you know, that people might not realise that are so important for their mental well-being, that are actually huge.
Yeah.
Like for me, like last night I play indoor cricket, you know, Tuesday night indoor cricket, Dirty Mike and the boys, mate.
Nice.
We've got a great team, 6 of us, or 7 of us actually.
You ever win?
Yeah, we had a win last night, but like, mate, those Tuesday night cricket games with those boys, like I can't fucking tell you how much I need that and how important that is for me in my week. And you know, as a thing, like it's not just the having a little run around, but it's the time with those lads talking a bit of shit. You know, we all have a little release, and like that, I think, you know, people play a bit of social sport, they might not really value how actually important that is, you know, in their life. Maybe they do, I don't know, but I know I really do.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? I look at those little things, I'm like, that's so important to me, like those relationships, you know.
Yeah.
Massive thing.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Being active in general, you know, like I've got to go to the gym. If I can go to the gym every day, it's not to look buff or fit or anything like that. It's just more for my headspace, man. Like it's a bit of time out for yourself, and
yeah, it's imperative. Imperative.
I've had like even the gym's great. Like I'm really fucking trying hard to get back into the gym proper, you know.
Yeah.
And instead of like rocking up and just thinking you got to do it, and just like sort of dawdling around, like, you know, wondering what exercise you're going to do next. Like I've got in my phone like a 4-day split of like 6 exercises I'll do each day, and then when I walk in, I'm just like, oh fuck, right, this is what I'm going to do. Like I know what's ahead of me. You know what I mean? So I'm really trying to get that gym routine. Really get, mate. It's hard for it's hard for a freewheeling operator like me. But yeah, you walk out and you just feel fucking great. You know.
Never met anyone that's walked out of a gym session and been like, I fucking hated, like that was shit. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, fuck, like.
Feel good.
And it's, well, for my side of things, like, well, yeah, I do gym like every day. And I finally, like, for a long time, my wife wasn't coming. And it was frustrating me because I'm like, here's a great opportunity for us to spend 45 minutes to an hour of quality time together every day, doing like achieving something together.
Yeah, cool.
She never got into it. Finally, this year, she's into it. And, like, we go every day together. Like, this morning, when I come down to Brisbane, I get up at 4:25. She gets out of bed. She comes to the gym at 5. We go and do it for 45 minutes. It's great. And just the improvement in, like, our relationship of being able to spend that quality time together, but also, like, achieving something is just, like, great for, like, morale for each other, and then together is fucking awesome. And for the rest of the day, you feel great. It's just like, fuck, it's such a massive difference.
Yeah. I thought being workwear models, mate, you'd be at the gym all the time, pumping the weights. And
No, mate, we're like...
We've fucking canned ourselves being as models.
Grassroots, mate. Like, we are fucking, you know, we're the everyday tradie. Like, you got to...
Yeah, we drink oak chocolate milks every morning and meat pies.
Well, actually, there's a funny story to that. We're of the many crazy, wonderful things we do on a daily basis, there's a project happening at the moment with a Brisbane artist who's entering a portrait of the two of us together in the Brisbane Portrait Prize this year.
It's an oil painting, isn't it? Oil painting?
Yeah, you'll know oil painting.
Well, I will be.
I will be, yeah. You will be now. Well, I won't be able to say that anymore, will I? You actually will be. But so he came out to our office and took some photos of us, like, you know, and he set it up.
With your shirts on.
Yeah. And we sat, you know, for the artist, and he had all these props. And so the final photo of us that he's used to paint is me with a sausage roll.
Rat coffin.
A rat coffin, yeah, just like sticking out if it's, you know, unsheathed tomato sauce ready to go. I've got an ice break in the other hand. I'm like, he's got his QR code open. We're just having a yarn. It's like the most, it's like not something we would ever do. Like we wouldn't. Like I don't.
It's a good pose.
I never really ate sausage rolls and iced coffees on Smoko, but it's
Fucking
like
iced
this like
coffees.
tradie thing. It's like so it's pretty funny.
Fit
so
the formula.
Yeah.
that'll be out soon.
Yeah,
So
can't wait to
excited
see it.
for that. Yeah.
Has anyone seen it? Have you guys seen it?
it's
Or-
Seen progress pics.
I've seen it. Yeah, the
Yeah.
working progress. Like mate, it's amazing. Actually, Human's an incredible artist. It's like he's done. It looks like a photo. By the
Yeah.
time he's finished
Well, he's gonna
doing the art, it
he's
looks.
He's going to paint the QR code so you can scan it on the paint.
He's already
Yeah,
done it.
right.
He's hand painted the QR code and it works already.
Holy
like
shit,
it's,
how big is it?
Fucking wild.
Yeah, it'd
It's a
be
big
like a-
canvas,
yeah.
like massive big canvas.
right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So I don't know how we got onto that, but yeah.
Me being attractive in an oil painting or some shit like that. I can't remember. You fucking drongo.
Yeah. Anyway, good shit.
Yeah, well, it looks like you're having loads of fun, man. Like, is that the key to a good
You
business?
have to.
You reckon?
You have
gotta
to.
have- yeah.
You got to find the fun in it because it's. Oh, there's plenty of days there. Like Dan and I, it'd be a shit day, and like he'll either be like, fuck this, this is so shit, like, and I'll just be like, well, it's either this or we can go back and fucking screed concrete. It's like, what do you want to do? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, yep. And then he'll do the same thing to me, like a fucking shit day. He's like, well, would you rather be on a roof fucking screwing a roof down? I'm like, yeah, you're right. Fuck.
Yeah.
What we are doing, there's tough shit days, but it's definitely better than what we were doing, and we're making impact by doing it. Because I think a really big thing in business, it's like if you're not getting runs on the board, like you're not making any money, you're fucking, you've got it struggling with your team, your product, something wrong with your product, people aren't buying something. Like if those things aren't happening, you can just get yourself in a position where you're like, everything is completely fucked and I can't make it work. But fortunate that we've got each other. We're yin and yang, total opposites.
Cool.
And when he's down, I'm up. When I'm down, he's up. And we just sort of feed off each other's
When we're
energy.
both down, shit's fucked.
We're both down, it's bad. Yeah, don't. But we're fortunate that we've always had a mindset without even probably being aware of it. Like we were so naive that we were like, we can just fucking try and do this. You know what I mean? We've always had the willingness to try and have a go.
Yeah.
And the downside of fucking it up was a lesson. It's like, well, we got a lesson out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've just been able to take that along the journey. And
And that's the key to like mental health in general, though.
Mate, just try. Just try something. Oh,
You-
I'm not well, try something.
And that's like the learning that I think we've really had out of the whole thing. Like mental health ain't depression and anxiety. That is one component of it, right? Like that is one. Actually, I'd say it's one small component of a large conversation. Like when you hear people say, about personal growth or change over a period of time, how much you grew, like sometimes it can be hard to relate, but we've really changed. The two of us really have grown along within our relationship with each other. Like we used to we used to piss each other off on purpose, and particularly me. I'm a real antagonist, right? Like I know how to push his buttons. And so we'd have blues and stuff, but we'd have serious blues, about business, but we'd always hash it out.
Yeah,
We'd never
cool.
go to bed angry at each other, that kind of thing.
Cute.
And then
Oh,
we've
no,
also,
that's sweet.
but we've also got better at like conflict resolution. I think that's really key. Like,
Oh, fuck yeah.
when it comes to anything mental health related, communication, your ability to communicate.
It's all communication. Whenever there's friction, it's 98% of the time it's communication. And the other thing that it's like frustrating for us, because we've obviously learnt that, it's like allowing people like in our team to understand that. It's like if there's conflict between two people in our team, it is always communication based.
Yeah.
Someone spoke to someone in a way that the other person didn't appreciate, and the person that said it didn't realise that they offended them, and vice versa. And it's just like, okay, it's all comms. We've just got to stop and think. Don't write emails in capital letters.
Yeah,
Fucking,
that's
you know
right.
what I mean? Like that sort of shit. Just and like literally, like an employee the other day, I said, hey, look, don't send any more messages in capital letters. It does come across. I know you're not trying to do that, but it does come across aggressive.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, sorry. Like,
How were they expecting that to come across?
No, but they like that was just her way of like she
yeah.
communicates with
Everything
capitals and
was
everything.
capitals.
Everything's
Oh, right,
capitals.
okay.
Everything's capitals. Just don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
And it's just
yeah.
like, oh, okay, yeah. And it's fuck.
And
Again,
then-
communication.
Well, sometimes you got to have a look at yourself. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself, and if you can have some sort of criticism, I guess, thrown back at you can take it in the right way. That is how you grow as well. You got to be able to be honest with
What's the
yourself.
willingness to know you don't know, and but willing to learn? It's like
Yeah.
I don't get this, but I'm willing to learn, because a long time for me was, fuck, if I didn't know something, I'd just grit my teeth and try and fucking bluff my way through it, because I didn't want to admit that I didn't know how to do something. Especially when I was doing my carpentry apprenticeship, I was like, fuck,
Yeah.
if I don't know, like I'd hate myself for not knowing, and I had this really weird fucking hang up about having to know everything. It's just like, just ask, figure it
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? It's like that's the process.
And that, into, like, actually, in the carpentry apprenticeship side of things, is like, you can't rock on site and know it. You need to spend time out there. You know, you need to spend time in something to fully learn the whole picture, right?
10,000
hours,
So
it's
mate.
like, mate, just commit yourself. Yeah, you know.
Work through it. And then I was on a podcast on Monday, actually.
You big podcaster.
Look, what can I say? You know? And anyway, Kate, who I was chatting to, she does a lot of carpentry, like business training, coaching. She actually, it's interesting. She works with tradie partners, so the women in relationships that blokes own a business, and the female is getting coaching about how to support him in the business and stuff like that. It was really interesting.
Yeah, right.
But she was talking about how hard it is to find builders that are willing to reach out and ask for help around finance or how to quote better or whatever. And I'm like, it's so fucking weird to me, because in e-commerce and like what we're doing, like retail or whatever, everyone asks everyone, oh, how do you do your Facebook ads? Do you guys do, podcasting? How do you do your podcasting?
Who does your shipping? Like,
who does your financing? Well, how's your cash flow work? What do you do in HR? Everyone asks. Fucking building, for some reason, everyone's like, oh, I'm supposed to know all this. I'm not willing to ask anyone. And it's just this really weird hang up that this industry is like that, because if everything went to shit, and I have to go to shit pretty bad, and if Dan and I had to start a building business, the first thing that I would propose is that we find 3 or 4 other mates that have got building businesses and say, right, we're quoting. If we can't quote it, we'll give it to you, and vice versa. Everyone, you know what I mean? Just do that as a start, and then start working off what is working in each other's business and find out more. But people don't want to collaborate for some reason in the
Isn't that
industry.
the same as just going back to Dan, your mate, who took his own life? Like, I mean, you talked about him, like, being excited about. Well, did he
Never started. He was supposed to start on the Monday.
Starting Monday. So he was.
Okay.
So after we became mates, like he, I kind of became like inadvertently like a bit of a almost like. It was a bit of a mentoring relationship in a way. Like, he really looked at, like, I was working my ass off as a chippy at the time, and I was like, doing weekend. I was working 7 days a week, and he really sort of became really interested in it. Was like, oh, fuck, I'd love to do that. I reckon I could really, But he was doing heaps of labouring work, heaps of, working for heaps of builders, a bit here and a bit there, but nothing like concrete solid for a couple of years. And yeah, that Thursday that he called me on the ladder was, mate, like, you'll never fucking believe it. Landed a mature age carpentry apprenticeship starting Monday, like, good to go. So, and it was like, and he'd been through, like everyone, but, he had some exceptional things, I'd say, happen in his life. But yeah, it was just like that, oh, here we go, where it's good. Which was why Which was why it was so, like, 3 days later, there's the questions are just like,
how?
Yeah, and it's like, fuck, you're right there.
So you got the message, and this brings me to a point. So you got the message saying he's just landed a good apprenticip. He's excited.
He called me. I was on the ladder, and he called me, and he was like,
I could hear him on the ground talking, because I was like, who the fuck? I was get off the phone. I'm like trying to hand you this thing.
Ecstatic, like he was like,
and then 4 days later, got the phone call. He's
Sunday
taken
morning.
his life.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I actually, I done an interview with a ex-football West Coast Eagles football player, Scotty Cummings, and he talks about Wayne Swassey.
Wayne Schwass.
Wayne Schwass, who does Pucker Up.
Yep.
You guys know that.
He used to play for the Swans. Wayne Schwass.
Yeah. The Swans, and not that I follow AFL much, but the Swans and the Kangaroos.
Maybe, yeah. Don't quiz me on AFL, actually. Good, yeah.
But anyway, so Scotty Cummings was talking about how, like, Wayne was up on the podium, just won, like, a flag for his team, holding up the cup and everything. And Scotty spoke to him the following day, just saying, oh, wow, man, like never won a cup before. He was ecstatic for him, just going, man, what did it feel like? And he just turned around and he said, Scotty, as I was holding up the cup, I couldn't even think about anything positive. I was just thinking about taking my own life.
Wow.
He was just he was that deep in his mental health, man, that fucking even holding up a premiership cup, which is, I guess, is most male dreams. The pinnacle.
And one of the really most negative things about that is that, like, as a society, like, we, collectively are all responsible, but everyone sits back and looks at people in those positions and are like, oh, you've got it made, like,
perfect.
Look at that, and, like, we all perpetuate that, like, that I guess that cycle really of, like, convincing people to think that they should be good when they're actually not. And that's a perfect example.
And they should feel guilt. Actually, the what's his name? That bloody music. He was the country music singer. That was on Rogan the other day. Trying to think what his name is.
Luke Combs.
Luke Combs. Yeah, Luke Combs is talking about this exact thing because he's like the fucking biggest thing in the world in country music at the moment. And he's like, I go to award shows and win awards, and it means nothing to me. And he's like, I feel fucking horrific because you see all these other people and like, oh, I thank my mum and dad and everyone that fucking got me here. And he's like, I don't feel that. And he's like, I feel like a great deal of like shame that I'm the one receiving this and it's not meaning anything to me. And he's like, I'm not saying that to be a dickhead because I, knew I'd get it or whatever. He's just like, I've just got this disassociation with this sort of fame. It's not, you know what I mean? And that would be a lot of, I'd say that'd be a great deal of people in the sporting world, especially, where they're like, I'm just doing my fucking job. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just doing my job.
And I wonder why, I mean, there's always that added pressure of being a professional athlete and that, but I guess it's the same with anything, really. I mean, if you're starting your new apprenticeship or you got a new project of building a house, if you've, just taken on as a builder or something like that, I guess it's like, where do you dive? I guess this is where the shirt's coming. It's like you got to open up, man. Like, I'm not feeling right. Like, I've just scored this good job or this wicked project, and fuck, man, I'm just not feeling.
You need a reason for it,
and that's the reason why. Like I said, like we were talking about before. Like, I make a point of when people say, "Oh, things are fucking flying," and it's like, well, that's what I say. The marketing's working. Like, I have to be very clear that, like, that's me saying, don't believe what you see.
Yeah, just because it looks good, like, doesn't mean that we don't have a fucking lot of challenges.
And it's not, and so when it comes to mental health conversations, like in my head, that's an example of the importance of being real. You know what I mean? About just one small thing that could come up in a day. Oh, you guys are killing it. It's like, oh, actually, the marketing's doing a good job then, right? That's what we're paying for. But fuck, it's not actually like what you see. So, and that's just one moment of honesty that might allow someone to go, oh, just to rethink that whole idea of like Schwassy on the stage with the trophy. It's like, you've got that, therefore you should be this.
Yeah, that's right.
It's so wrong, you know what I mean? And people become
They're
brainwashed.
not correlated.
People become brainwashed by it.
The journey very much for me is that they're all expectations of what you've got. And 9 times out of 10, when you've reached that expectation, you've already got another expectation ahead of you. And so the cycle goes, and you're never really content. It's not until you really take a step backwards.
Be present. Yeah.
Be present, and a lot of that, the way I'd sort of talk about it on some of my podcasts is I look at it like you got to have a tool belt of life.
Yep.
Like, I mean, being a chippy, whatever, you got your hammer, you got your nail gun and your sword.
And you're continually collecting tools along the way.
This is a better tool. I'm fucking using this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've been fortunate enough to be able to do, and we're trying to pass that on. And I think the other thing is it like me, I know for me personally, like, I'm in a far better position because I used to be very much when we get to 5 employees, like, that'll be fucking better, like, that'll be good. When we get to 8, that'll be really good, and we get TIACS going, that'll be good. I'll feel better then. But it's like, no, you like got to be taking yourself through the journey and enjoying the ride as it is, because like, fuck, if you are, because there's a lot of people that are like, I listen to heaps of podcasts and you hear it all the time. It's like someone had a business, they fucking hustled for 10 years, they lost relationships, they didn't have a fucking missus by the end of it, they broken up with heaps of friends because they couldn't go to any events, and they just worked like a dog, and then they had like a massive exit or whatever, and then they were just like, what the fuck was all that for? Do you know what I mean? And we see people like in our circles that do like massive weeks, and you talk to them like, no, I don't see the missus, I don't see the kids. It's like, mate, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, that is not how to live, because you're going to get to 65 or 70 and go, fuck, I've got 10 or 15 years left, and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas I know me, and I know he is as well, we're like, we're going to enjoy as much of this as we possibly can. There'll be shit days and we'll fucking hate it, but we've still got to embrace it. It's like, righto, life, get through it, enjoy it, and keep going.
And I sort of find when you're at that stage as well, you sort of attract better things towards yourself as well. I feel when you've got your head down, that old saying, you head down, your ass up, and work like a fucking...
it's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
You're missing out on what's the journey of life.
It's a fucking cop-out, I reckon. It's a cop-out. It allows people not to have decent connections with one another. It's like, nah, too busy, got to work longer. Fuck that. It's like, we looked at each other last year, like, we were burning each other out. Like, we were cooked, right? He did the TED Talk. He hadn't had a holiday in fucking 7 years. I was at a point where I was like, fuck, I'm rooted as well. What's going on? And we were like, well, what lifestyle do we want? We're like, well, we want to work 4 days a week. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can do that with the entire business. It's like that. Everyone else will probably enjoy that. So we're like, right, well, fuck it. We'll just trial a 4-day work week. Yeah. So we've been doing that since February.
Yep.
And we're still hitting sales targets, and customer service is still great, and shirts are still arriving on time. So it's like, okay,
going to 3.
He's got, you know what I mean? But he's got time to go and do the things that he wants to do. I've got more time to go do the things that I want to do, and life's better. And the idea of being like, you know, my mates of ours, they were talking to their old man the other day, going out to a wedding, and they're like, Noonan, and he's talking to his old man. He's like, Dan and Ed, like, they're doing 4 days a week, and like Bill's, he'd have to be 65, 70, whatever. He goes, 4 days a week. So they should be doing fucking 8 days a week. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, you got to work harder.
It's a real excuse, isn't it? To like, I think it can be a real sort of, people can hide behind their work ethic. Actually, like, it's very easy because it can be like it can almost be perceived as like some sort of a noble thing of like, well, I'm working my ass off.
I'm doing 80 hours, man. What do you want from me?
It's like all this other stuff is being neglected, the family, or, you know, my personal, you know, health and wellness and this kind of stuff. But I'm working my fucking ass off. You know what I mean? It can be really. I think it's always been a solid thing for a lot of people to hide behind.
Especially men.
It's always been pushed on us though as well. You've got to do your 10-hour days, or you know what's ever gone with like, oh fuck, if I can get this done in 6, that's wicked.
Also, I mean, you're seeing a different generation coming through now as well, where like they can actually get paid to play video games and stuff, right? Like, it's like, well, why the fuck would you
be a social media manager? Just like, I scroll.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you know? And you're seeing a lot of people making money in a lot of different ways that, you know, you couldn't once upon a time. So like, even then going into industries like trades and working those 10-hour days, like, fuck, that doesn't seem that appealing either, does it? Really?
That's probably why a lot of people aren't getting into trades anymore, because it's like, you've still got that older generation of who are business owners now being like, need to work 6 days a week, and people are like, well, fuck off, I'm going to go do something else somewhere, you know, and it's 5 days a week or whatever, you know. So especially
now that a lot of people are working from home, like, you can't do that on a commercial commercial site.
And I've chatted to a couple of mates who have got businesses as well, like a couple of boys in my indoor team, you know what I mean, Sparky, plumber. And like, it wouldn't really, well, it would be possible actually in a services-based business if you actually structure your business from the get-go, being like, this is how I'm going to do it. You know, you hire people accordingly, you know, you structure your finances and that accordingly, right? But as they are currently now, it wouldn't work for them in a services-based business, because you can only charge for the, you know, the hours.
Billable hours. That's
right.
Same like that, being a lawyer or something. You know what I mean? You need as many 6-minute fucking increments as you can get. Don't get me started. Not that I'm talking to lawyers, mate.
But let's just say you are a builder and you're like, man, I like the idea of what you guys are doing. And yeah, it is easy because if you've got a factory and an office and you can do all that, but I've got this fucking project I need to get done.
Exactly.
And also with a skill shortage of trades, I think that'll be the same as here as what it's in Perth.
Oh shit, yeah.
And it was materials, you know, like even getting materials there. I mean, everyone's sort of forced to.
Mate, the pressures in the building industry right now are immense.
Top down, it just keeps getting pushed down. But I guarantee that it would make a huge change, and it would be a massive unique selling proposition for any business owner out there in the trades business to be like, my employees only work 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And it can be split across. So it's like, you're still operational Monday to Friday, but some people have Mondays off, some people have Fridays off, and you can change that roster around. Yeah, right, and it's like, pay them the same money. They're going to fucking work like a dog. They're not going to spend an hour on smoko because they're fucking burnt out and they want to spend a bit of downtime. They'll be into it, set KPIs, manage their time better. And that's what the big thing is. Like, there's so much time that's taken up in unproductive use of fucking company time. Just like, cut the bullshit out, get straight into it. I reckon it would work without a doubt. And it's like, the other thing is, just because that's the way it has been done, it's like, oh, now we need to work 6 or 7 days a week. It's like, no.
And really I guess if you are willing to explore it as well. I mean, I used to own my own business, and I had the biggest peak, it was probably about 40-odd people. And even if you are a business owner and you're out there and you want to explore it, you don't necessarily have to do 4-day weeks. You can go every second week or even once a month. Everyone's got an RDO at a different time.
Yep. And split it out. Just give back. And the other thing as well, this is a weird one, but there's a manufacturing business in Toowoomba that they've been a big supporter of ours, and I went out and did a talk. Must have been a month or so ago on a Friday. I was just talking to the owner out there and that after it, and she was asking how the 4-day week was going. I said, yeah, it's been pretty good so far. And she said, well, we actually trialled it here.
Oh, right.
I was like, that's fucking cool. And she goes, yeah, all the wives rang up and fucking got up us because their husbands were home.
Yeah,
they didn't want it.
Yeah, right.
And then all the employees, then all the men. Like,
So what were the wives doing at home all day?
I've
They
got no
didn't want their
fucking idea.
husbands there.
And then
What did they tell you?
And then all the employees were like, well, actually, we don't want to have Fridays off. And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
They were like, well, because they had nothing to do.
Yeah.
They didn't have hobbies. They didn't have life outside of work. So they were like, well, we'd rather just have a half day on a Friday. Can you believe that?
Because then again,
Which is fucking crazy.
Maybe it should be like you swap the wives over with the husbands.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
get them to work.
But they legitimately didn't want to have a 4-day week. At the same pay, everything, no changes. Like, same pay, 4 days. No, we'd rather do a half day on a Friday. So, okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I couldn't believe that.
Right,
So-
there you go. Maybe a lot of people are just going to work to get away from their partners.
Maybe. There you go.
I
Let's
think it goes
unpack
on.
that.
Yeah, well, you hear about it a lot in the mining industry over there. Like, relationships work because the husband's away half the time.
God,
know?
fuck, that's another whole kettle of fish.
So, yeah. So what? So where to for you guys? I mean,
God.
it sounds like to me the journey's only just begun.
Well, there's a lot of work, like, in terms of the business, like, yeah, it kind of has, like, yeah, well, I think we've just got to this point of stability at the 5-year mark where we've made mistakes, we've, nearly had these, near death experiences, in the business, that kind of stuff, what we felt like anyway.
Got an oil painting.
Yeah, we've got an oil painting
On the
customer.
way.
So, like, yeah, operationally day to day, like, there's a lot of optimization to be done in both businesses, to continue to improve, because we are just really hell bent on just continuing to improve it all, making it better, constantly analysing data, looking at, where we can make improvements, whether it's, the care for clients or, internally, the cultural, that kind of stuff. Like, so there's a lot of work to do just on a daily basis right now, I would say, so that's exciting.
Continuing to level up on, all those sorts of aspects. But also, I think the big thing for us is we're now really learning what does work for us.
Yeah.
And it's how can we get in front of more new people and tell our story? Because, like, our main driver, like, economically for this business is just brand awareness.
Yeah.
Like, I've 5 years in, or 7 years, I suppose, since we conceptualised the idea, never had anyone come up to us when we're told the story, why we're doing what we're doing, and they've been like, oh, that's stupid, you know what I mean? Originally, when we were just saying we're making weird work shirts about mental health and not the whole story, people were like, you're fucking insane.
You've got to be crazy to be successful, I reckon. in business, eh?
But I think we've made enough mistakes now, and also our mindset's changed from, let's try and get really big and do it like, it's just like, well, let's just grow slowly and profitably and make impact and do it in a way where it's not as much stress and our balls aren't on the line every week, that sort of...
Well, like you said before, man, just enjoying the process.
Enjoying the
of
journey, mate.
yeah.
Fuck, getting out of bed and just being like, yeah, fuck, this is fun, what we're doing. Like, this is different.
The whole enjoying the journey piece is like, when you hear people say that, you're like, oh, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like,
It is, yeah,
But it is
true.
so true.
Yeah.
Like, until you've, I suppose, been on that kind of a defining journey yourself, and you realise, like, you can't, there is no point where you get to, you don't ever sell enough shirts where you're like, oh yeah, job done, or you don't ever
sit back, feet up on the desk.
Yeah,
Did it.
It's like you don't go and do the TED talk or whatever. And it's like, all right, I'll finish now. It's like every day, so you got to keep going. And like Ed said, like if you're not enjoying yourself along that journey, well then you've already lost, right? You kind of, and that's why I think we're so lucky to have each other. To be honest, because I don't know how soul founders do it. Like, I have no idea. Some people are cut out for it, but others, like, I just don't know how they do it. Because I don't think I could do it. And, like, we, depending on what you're doing, of course, but in this journey, like, we're so lucky to have each other. The same jokes. We've been doing the same fucking jokes with each other since the day we met.
Dan did a joke in the car this morning on the way here that was from fucking, like, 2016.
Yeah. Like we just
Skoda
bring up
keys.
shit from stuff that happens on the building side or stuff that used to make us laugh. And we just do that and we still just laugh like dickheads. You know
The
what I
best
mean?
jokes happen in a ute, man.
Just
driving the fucking shit that gets
banter.
spoken. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
And I mean,
we
our
are
poor fucking staff, like, they work for the two biggest dickheads in the world, right? But, like, they have fun with it. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I think that's the key as well. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. Remember who you are, have fun, enjoy it. But, actually starting to realise that, you can build the life for yourself that you want to through it. But also thinking about, well, what is that life? Like, what do I want for myself? Like, so many people don't really think about what they want for themselves and their life and what the future looks like.
what's that? If you're working 80 hours a week and slogging your ass off, well, where are you trying to get to?
Yeah.
And most people are like, oh, I want to make a heap of money. It's like, right, well, once you got a heap of money, then what happens? It's like, well, fuck, you don't have
I
any
just
of
want
the
to hang
journey.
out on my yacht all day. Oh, yeah, who with?
Really?
All my friends dropped off, so it'd just be me.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I think people completely forget that, and we live in this really weird society where fucking social media, I've got to try and be better than him, and look, those guys are going on holidays in Italy, and fucking, they've just bought, some new car or whatever. It's like, fuck, who gives a shit? Just enjoy yourself and your time. And literally, the best times that I have in my life hasn't really cost me anything. It's just spending time with mates, family, like going to Magic Round this weekend. Like, it's going to cost me $80. It's going to be unreal. You know what I mean? That sort of shit. Spend time with family. It's great. Like, those sorts of things is what I love. And I'm so fortunate that we're not in the, head down grind culture of like, fucking got to work massive hours.
But like you were talking about with the tools as well, you're talking about the tools that, you tool about you pick up along the way. I think there's such a thing with like time and age and like coming of age and developing wisdom as well throughout your life and your journey. And that happens quicker or slower for some people depending on what you do, but I feel like you build wisdom through age, but you also build wisdom through experiences in real time, and you can develop and grow faster. And I think that's such a key thing because you I mean, the old saying, like, if only the young could know, if only the old could do. Have you heard that? Like, it's so true. And like, I think for a lot of people on mental health journeys, like, it's easy to talk from experience because you've experienced it and you've had those lessons yourself. But everyone else, like, they need to go through it and experience that themselves as well.
Well, you don't know until you know.
Exactly. And that's the key thing. And it's like you can read books, or you can listen to people, shout it from the rooftops and this and that. But like for a lot of people, you just got to do your time, like
until you're ready.
Until you're ready, yeah, for sure.
And it's like when there was an interesting thing I heard the other day, and it was around like reading and information. It's like someone will read a book today, and then they'll read that same book in 20 years, and they will get completely different outcomes out of that reading because they're ready to learn specific things in there. And it's like, I've just read this book called Principles, right, by Ray Dalio. Awesome, massive fucking thing. It's unreal. But if I'd read that book 3 years ago, it would have meant fuck all to me. Whereas like now I'm like, wow, there's a lot of this stuff that we can implement, or in my life that I can implement. And I'm sure in 5 years' time when I read it again, it'll be completely different learnings because it's like now this is where I'm at and I can actually use this information. And I think that's what we're also doing just with the conversations around go and get help, tell your mates about it. At some stage, someone will be like, yeah, fuck, I'm really having a shit week. Like, those boys have gone and done that. Like, it sounds like it's really beneficial. I'm actually happy to call TIACS now. Like, that's sort of what we're doing. So I'm just continuing to read it out.
Well, that's the whole idea behind this podcast. Like when I podcast people like yourselves, or like I've done breath work and like counsellors and plant-based medicine people, because I want to sort of that tool
experience,
and I want to put them on my website so where people can sort of go to and go, okay, just like it's almost like a smorgasbord of like all the different things you can do and where you might be at your journey. There might be just a fucking outline. Or it might just mean that I just want to go and try something different and get into doing a little bit of breathwork class,
and that's the holistic approach as well. Like what I was saying, like even just that experience of finding a psych and then finding a new one because it wasn't really working. But that being a small component of the overall journey, it's like that's just one piece. You know what I mean? If you want to go off on a wellness retreat, do a bloody juice cleanse for a week or whatever the hell it is, that are all the different little pieces that make you feel good. It's like important for people to understand that mental health, like I said, it's not anxiety and depression. That's one component of it. It is a whole overarching,
don't walk into your counselling session, walk back out 45 minutes and just be like, fucking done. I'm back. You know what I mean? It's a continual journey. Like, fuck.
Because you have a shit night's sleep and you come in, to work the next day and you're just tired and you're,
kicking shit around.
Yeah, you're irritable and that kind of stuff. Like, in that point in time, like that's a component of mental health. Like that's how you feel then and there, and you understand. Okay, righto. Well, I need to make sure I get my sleep because like that's I can directly correlate, and that's like an important thing to me. So
Well, another thing we haven't mentioned here is I've spoke about it. I've done a podcast on relationship with self, and a part of a relationship with self is the alone time with yourself. I know we talk about you've got to talk about your emotions and that. But you've got to find that time you've got to start becoming comfortable with yourself and those thoughts and listening
and how you communicate with yourself. And that's the thing, it still comes back to communication because it's important in relationships, but it's also important with yourself. It's like how you communicate with yourself, that internal narrative, understanding
beating yourself up.
Those thoughts that you have. We all have a mind that doesn't stop, right? We think about absolutely everything all day, every day, you know what I mean? But like, sometimes those thoughts don't necessarily serve you well, and it's important to understand how you communicate
All
with
times
yourself.
they don't.
Yeah, majority of the time. And there was a podcast I heard the other day, and they were talking about that, and it was like, thoughts that you have, they're just thoughts. That's not you. Like, that's just come into your head. You can just fucking flick that off, like completely eradicate that. You don't need to worry about it. And the idea around, spending time alone, people that meditate, breath work, whatever it is, I mean, it just gives you a time to be like, right, I actually focus on what you actually give a fuck about and want to think about, and release that other bullshit out of your system, because you're just getting that cycle of fucking wearing yourself down with negative thoughts. You don't even realise it because you're just running at 1,000 miles an hour, and then you're like, then you become what you're thinking, and you're like, fuck, this is not good. So it's important to find your little trigger points and what improves, improves those things,
Yeah, for sure, man. And again, like what we said before, it's just a continuous
Learning.
journey of learning.
Yeah. Until you're in a box one day. So you got to keep fucking figuring it out.
It really is, and I think it's quite. It's almost kind of liberating in a way when you kind of actually start to experience that for yourself and understand, that whole journey, those things that happen every day on a daily basis. It's kind of like you can get so deep in your thoughts sometimes, and a lot of people do, that it's really hard to remove yourself and understand it. So like, when we're talking about this kind of shit, it's not relatable to some people because they're just so deep in it that they just can't really see out. But I guess it's like, again, fostering the culture, having these conversations, trying to create opportunities where people can come to the party, warm up the room a little bit, and welcome them in when it's ready to go. So yeah, for sure, it's important.
And that's what I've liked, part of your TED Talk and what you guys do and offering those services, man.
Yeah.
And I also like the fact that, because it's one to open up and have those conversations, but fuck, if you're receiving this sort of information, it's like, how do you deal with it? Like, because it's a big conversation.
And we should talk about really the TIACS, because we haven't really touched on how actually TIACS really works, right? Because we've got a team of counsellors there. They're all masters qualified counsellors, and something that's fucking awesome. Like Ed's touched on it before. Like our vision for TIACS is like the mental health support service that people tell their mates about. That's really important for two reasons. One, if it was shit, people wouldn't tell their mates about it. Yeah. So it holds us accountable to ensure that people have a quality experience, because if you have a quality experience, you're far more likely to continue on that journey and reach out again. So that's really important. But also that vision, if people are telling their mates about it, it means we're breaking down the social barriers like we talked about talking about your experience of actually reaching out to a counsellor. Like that's a huge indicator for us if what we're doing is working. But at the moment, the average number of counselling sessions people are having is four counselling sessions with our. So it's not just one. They don't just rock up and but they're engaging in it and doing the process, and that's awesome. That's a huge thing for us. And also speaking to the same counsellor every time, so you have to keep telling your story over and over again. That's a big differentiating factor for TIACS.
And the financial side of it too, man. I mean,
it's fucking so expensive to get counselling,
exactly.
Or for psych care especially. It's like, fuck.
So what actually happens there, boys? So like if I, for instance, if I reached out and approached you guys and I've got a counselling session, can I continuously keep going through with it?
So we do.
You don't talk to us. Firstly, the key is
you never talk. You never talk to us. We'll be like,
I'm enjoying this, man.
Yeah. So you get booked. Like you'll get triage with one of our counsellors. Like triage. Okay, I can book you in Monday. Blah 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 blah. Booked in with Kurt, and then you'll start that session. So a 45-minute session, and we do up to 8 to 10 sessions. And the whole idea is that once you start with us, you've got a presenting issue. It may be something that you're battling with, or you're worried about someone else and you want to know how to help them. Well, we'll take you from that point to hopefully at the end, you're educated, you've worked through it, we've challenged you, and you've improved with that enough to be like, you don't need us anymore. And if you do need us again, you can come back. But if we haven't got you to that point, it's like, right, well, let's refer you on to somewhere else where you can get more care. So we're a really good, entry level into figuring out where we should go. Do you know what I mean? And what we're really lucky to have is a culture of care and giving a fuck. And if people reach out, like Taz, one of our counsellors, she was telling us the other day at the board meeting around, there was a bloke, he was an alcoholic, he was in central Queensland, and he was having a fair few sessions, and he needed surgery on his throat. And he kept presenting back, like, in the next session, being like, they fucking cancelled again. Like, they don't care about me. They just want me to fucking die, all this sort of stuff. Taz literally reached out and organised this surgery for this bloke and then got him back in through and made that happen. And it was all then explaining back to him, well, it was just a miscommunication. These doctors, they kept cancelling because of X, Y, Z. It's not because of you. He's gone and then got that surgery. He's way better. And it's sort of like, we're not just... Yeah, hope you're feeling better, mate. Like, I can talk soon. It's like, no, we genuinely give a fuck.
Yeah. And the importance of taking people from point A to point B is huge for us as well. Like, we're not a crisis support service. You know, we're specifically structured and set up in a way where there's, you know, definitive hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You know, you've got to proactively take the step and book in, right? And if you do that step with us, we'll ensure that we take you on a really positive journey. You know, which is where we're sitting in the scheme of things. We're early intervention. We want to warm people up to how this whole experience works and ensure that they have that great experience. As Ed says, like, you know, we've looked at the landscape. Like, obviously, you know, with Medicare and that kind of thing, you get different subsidised, you know, sessions for mental health related things. So for us, that, like Ed said, 8 sessions is like where we want to cap people. And if we can't sort of take them from point A to point B in that time, then that formal mental health care referral is huge. But we've got a process internally where our counsellors can apply internally to management for 4 extra sessions with someone if they think that, you know, if they can put the case forward and say that this person will really benefit from a few extra sessions here, would be really great. So that's how we're thinking about things. We're like thinking about how can we do this. We want to be efficient. We want to be impactful. We want to actually take people on the correct journey, but then support them and figure out how we can continue to support them moving forward.
Because a lot of people that reach out to us are like, you know, I rang other services and never heard back, or fucking, you know, like no one ever helped me, or no one ever called, or whatever it is. Whereas we're like, well, just call us. Like, even if you don't know why you're just call us and we'll try and help you figure that out. And if we can't help you, we'll refer you on to somewhere that can, and it's vetted as well. Like, we're not just like dropping you and being like, oh, you know, give these guys a call. It's like, we'll connect up. Here's the phone number. If you don't hear back, give us another call.
One of our counsellors the other week, we had a board meeting last week, and Rob was telling us about one particular client who he'd call up. He was a bit of a, I don't know, you would say he's like almost like a bit of a problem child client in a way. Like, he's chatted to a lot of the counsellors, but, you know, then he doesn't show up to his sessions, you know, and then he's kind of bonded with Rob, and Rob's taken him on a couple of sessions, but whether he answers the phone in each booked-in session is hit and miss, right?
Yeah, right.
But Rob has followed him up. I think it was something like 15 times. He said, like, he'd book him in, he'd chase him up, he wouldn't answer, kept trying the next week, you know what I mean? Didn't fucking give up. Finally, after 15 attempts, got onto him and got him going again. It's
cool.
And that's the avoidance thing. It's kind of scary, like, you know, it shouldn't be, but I can understand how it is scary for people doing something new. Where that phone call comes around, you're just like, oh, no, fuck it, I'm not going to do it today.
I don't need this,
Yeah, but like that, and it would have been very easy for Rob to just be like, oh, well, I tried, fuck it, whatever.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But we're really hell-bent on, like, fucking don't give up, like, don't give up on people, you know what I mean? Like, keep it going, and like, it's something we're proud of. It's kind of cool, you know, it's like, just keep, you know, we'll get them, you know, we'll get them.
Man, I appreciate you. You know, I mean, I haven't even gone through your services, but even just to be in front of me to podcast this, mate, I'm sitting back just... That's why I said inspiring, man. Like, I mean,
Thanks,
you are, and I can speak on behalf of everyone quite confidently, man. You guys are doing a wicked job. You should take a massive pat on your back, because that's the other key as well, man, to good mental health, is actually taking a look at what you're doing and the journey you've been on and the people you're helping, and even for your time to come out here, man, and do this podcast and things like that. So, yeah.
That's great, man. We really appreciate it. And you're a fucking good podcaster, actually. I think
it's been really,
voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really good. But like we say to people, like last week, you know, we were out at, you know, a few of the hospitals in Metro North talking to the BEMS crew, which is like the building engineering maintenance side of things with hospital staff. And there's a lot of tradies, like there's heaps of tradies. You know, we like, obviously you talk differently to different people, we tailor it to the audience or whatever, but we're up there saying last week, like, you pricks, like, fuck you, we're out here busting our fucking asses, right? Selling workwear to make sure you've got somewhere to fucking turn to when you need it.
So use it.
Reach out to the service, because, you know...
There'll be someone listening to this podcast that'll reach out, which is like, man. Fucking, 100%. Like, I did a podcast on the phone 3 or 4 weeks ago. Another dude in Perth. And John, one of our counsellors, slacked us the other day and was like, hey, just had someone call through from a podcast you did. I'm like, fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's that sort of stuff. Go out and do a talk.
I
one
get
person
nervous
calls.
as hell, man, like coming into each one of these podcasts. And but that's why I keep reminding myself, if there's one person that's going to reach, and it will, I know every single one will reach. And again, I've had feedback, outside the podcast is saying thank you very much. Well, this is where I was at, and encouraged
awesome.
me to get to
And people just need an example to look at and be like, oh fuck, that works. And the other thing, like you were talking about, breath work, whatever it is, fucking ice baths, sauna, fucking weekend retreat, going to the footy with mates. Yeah. Just something that's like, that's the first step that I'm going to go on to try and improve, and then it's all the other stuff that sort of, and like you said, it attracts, because when you go to the gym, there's people at the gym that are doing other stuff, and you talk to them, you're like, oh, and you're doing this? Okay, yeah, I'll try that. And it just continues on and continues on. So, yeah, just getting on your journey and starting.
And it feels like there's a I don't know,
making it the norm.
Well, it feels like there's more than ever. There's a real social push to to self-development, self-improvement, all the different, like Ed said, from your ice baths to your fucking whatever, seeing your counsellor, psychs, breath work, physical activity that you do. There's a real, I don't know if it's just the circles we're in, but it feels like there's a real sort of push, more and more people doing it. And we'll reach a critical mass at some point where
everything's normal.
Where there's so many people doing it that you're the odd one out. If you're not, not speaking to someone, what I mean, that's where we need to get.
The momentum is definitely getting there. You know what I mean? Definitely getting there. So
people will join the party eventually. It's like fucking.
Come on,
it's like Crocs, mate. Like everyone's like, look at these hideous Crocs, mate. But then all of a sudden, everyone's fucking wearing them.
That's awesome. We'll be seeing these shirts everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to get one, by the way.
We should have brought. I didn't even. Why didn't we bring one?
That's all good.
Sorry, mate.
Bit bloody unorganised.
Well, I'm going to leave it there, boys.
Thanks, mate.
Next time I'm in Brizzy, I'll definitely. I've got theme parks to get to. So.
Fucking nightmare world. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, fuck.
Mate, you're supposed to be pro Queensland tourism. We want to
come on down to Queensland.
Yeah, I'm going to be at the Magic Round on Friday too, so I might catch up for a beer, mate, if you're around.
Nice, you'll see a few fucking rude characters out there at Suncorp, mate.
It's a zoo at Suncorp. It's great.
All the creatures come out. But yeah, mate, thanks very much for having me on, Dave.
Really likewise, man. And I'll grab your details. I'll put it on my website and at the bottom of this.
Will I do a quick TIACS? Do you want the phone number? Will I spit it out?
Yeah, spit it out,
mate. So obviously, TIACS is there. Tradies, truckies, farmers, blue-collar workers, or anyone who cares about that cohort. Text or call 0488 469 88, or head to tiacs.org, TIACS.
Cool.
Bit more info.
Awesome. Wicked. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Legend.
That went good.
That I didn't get the